Yesterday someone asked you about the cyber attacks on Jews, and if it was better to denounce or to let it pass. And you said it has to be denounced. Can you tell us more about this?
Yes, we know from history that if you do not set the record straight, if you do not denounce anti-Semitism, if you do not denounce and tell the truth, then the lies become what everybody believes in. And this is why we have to answer everything. Also, if we do not denounce, if we do not counter this, they become more bold and more courageous, and more bold, and they do it more and more. If you don't stop them, they will continue. This is why we have to stop it.
And what is the way to stop it?
The only way to stop it is to be everywhere, to be in the social media, to be in the internet, to be in the classical media, to be on television, to be in the campuses. First and foremost, we have to educate and empower our own people, the Jewish juventud, the Jewish children and students, so they will know and they will be confident and that they will be proud of their history and of their legacy. And if they are confident, they can answer back. This is the first thing. And secondly, we have to empower our friends in the world. We have many, many friends in the world, Christian, evangelical Christians, and they also want to know that we are defending ourselves in the media. They want to know that we do it, and they want to get the information that they can do it. So this is our mission.
And what would you tell people who say that the Palestinians were there, the Jews came, they took their land, and they kicked them out? What is the answer?
First of all, I will tell them to read the history. I will start it with the Bible. The Bible is not lying. The Bible not only is a religious book, is also an historic book. And everything in the Bible can be corroborated with archaeology, archaeological facts throughout the land of Israel. So you can see from the time of Abraham, from the time of King David, from the time of the Maccabees, there is a Jewish presence in our land all the time. Now, there was never ever a Palestinian state. Palestina was a name given by the Roman Latinos after the Jewish insurgency against the Romans. So if you look at all the history, the only sovereign of the land was the Jewish people. The country was Israel and was a Judea. There were two Jewish states. There were Judean kings and Israelite kings. And there is all the facts. Is there any Palestinian king? No. Is there any Palestinian president? No. So people just have to read the history and understand it. It is true that when Jews came back en masse to the Jewish land, although there was always Jewish presence, but they were few because of the diaspora. But when we came to the land, starting about 120 years ago, we began making economy, and with economy, jobs. Arabs from the region came for jobs. There were some, nomads who stayed there. So there are some people there who are not Jews. They defined themselves later. After Zionism, there was a national Arab movement. And by the way, in 1947, when the UN split the land, partitioned the land, he said Jewish land and Arab land. He didn't say Palestinian land. Why? Because all of us were Palestinian by administrative order, because Palestine was a mandate, it wasn't a country, it wasn't a political entity, it was administrative entity ruled by Ottomans and then by the British. When did the Palestinians start calling themselves Palestinians? Only after the birth of the Jewish state. Now, it doesn't mean that they do not deserve a state. They are separate than us. They want their own state. They can get it. We are willing to give it to them. But they have to stop attacking us. They have to stop lying about us. And they have to recognize that we are there by our own rights. Nobody is doing us any favor that they recognize us as a Jewish state living in our own land.
And now we heard a lot about politics, and now we would like to know about the anecdotic side of your job. You have been in many places in the government, in the Israeli government, as an ambassador to the United States. Can you tell us something that happened to you, like first-hand stories?
Well, I can tell you that when you meet world leaders, they support us. They are afraid maybe outside to say that, but there is a great support for Israel because people understand that we, in Israel, we defend the entire Western world. And if Israel's security is compromised, so will be compromised the security of Europe and of the United States, of Latin America. People understand it. We are there in the seam line between Western or Judeo-Christian civilization and some radical ones, unfortunately. Now, I can tell you a story that when Mr. Sharon, Prime Minister, met for the first time President Bush in the White House. It was in 2001. And Mr. Sharon tried to explain to Bush how bad is terrorism. So he told the Bush, you know, if the United States had some terrorism from a neighbor state, in 1 hour there wouldn't be the state. You would, in 1 hour, destroy the state. So Bush looks at him and says, why? People didn't understand. What do you mean, why? He says, why 1 hour? In 10 minutes, there wouldn't be our enemies. So this is how normal people respond to attacks. And Israel, I would say, more than any other people, is compassionate. We have our right for self-defense, and we do it only when there is no other choice.
We heard about the stories about the Oslo Agreement, and Clinton yesterday you told us about, and then we hear the rumors that in these negotiations Arafat disappeared.
Yes.
You were there. Did he disappear?
Well, he didn't want to come and make a compromise. He didn't want a deal. You know, Ehud Barak at the time was the prime minister, and he kept offering more and more compromises and concessions to Arafat. And Arafat sat there like a sphinx without giving any answer. Until Clinton told Arafat, you cannot just sit there. This is not the way to negotiate, to keep getting offers from the other side. You have to give a counter offer. He never gave a counter offer. And even when Ehud Barak made the ultimate concession of dividing Jerusalem and split sovereignty over the Temple Mount, where the Bet HaMikdash was, Arafat said, no, there was never Bet HaMikdash, there is no Jewish people, it's only Palestinian. And at that point, President Clinton was so upset and so mad, he told Arafat, my history and my Bible are not lying. And let me tell you, when Jesus Christ, Clinton's, the Christian's Messiah, when Jesus Christ walked the streets of Jerusalem 2,000 years ago, he didn't see one mosque. He only saw the Jewish temple.
And when you were an ambassador to the United States, can you tell us some story that happened to you?
Well, I can tell you that in the United States, you know, they really are our best friends and allies. And people think that the United States and Israel cooperate only militarily and strategically. No, also economically, scientifically, culturally. Israel is the largest trading partner of the United States in the Middle East. We buy more American goods, more American services than any of the Arab countries. and most of the Arab countries put together. And that puts us in a very, very sound basis for the future. And with Mexico, we also have a lot in common. Although we are very far geographically, I think we're very close, especially because of the great Jewish community in Mexico, which you are proud Mexicans and you are proud Jews, and you are very comfortable being Mexicans and being Jews, and I think this is a great bridge between our two countries for the future, for scientific cooperation, for economic cooperation and cultural cooperation. And we were very pleased by President Perez coming here, President of Mexico going to Israel very soon, and I think this will really put us together and really cement and strengthen the relations.
Did you meet our president?
Yes, I was very fortunate to meet your president when he was the gobernador of Mexico, the region of Mexico.
Estado de México.
Estado de Mexico. He came to Israel. I was then in the Cancilleria, and I received him over there. We had a very, very good visit. We spoke for maybe 2 hours. I was really impressed by him as a real, true friend of Israel and of the Jewish people. And he even gave me a tie as a present, which I have at home.
Wonderful. What was on the tie?
The tie was the Mexican flag.
Wonderful. Did you meet any Arab leaders, and how was the meeting?
Well, I met many of them at the United Nations, and I would say most of them understand that we can be a very, very good friend. Because of our science, we can help them. And the economic cooperation can bring up the entire Arab world with modernity and with prosperity. It is too bad that they cannot say it in public, because then they can get killed by the extreme Muslims. But I also met many Palestinians, and unfortunately, what they tell us is that they do not hate us as Jews. They are not anti-Semites, because they are also Semites. The Arabs also are Semites. They say they attack us because we represent the Western civilization, and they do not want them in the Middle East. And they want to throw us back to Europe and anywhere else. This is what they tell us quietly. And this is what the world has to understand, that Israel stands there not only for the Jewish people, but also for the entire enlightened world. And I hope at some point the Muslim majority, the silent majority of the Muslims, will turn against the extreme Muslims that want to throw us out.
Can you tell us about one meeting with an Arab leader?
Well, I would love to, but if I tell you here, I'm afraid that you will be attacked. So I can tell you privately.
And with some world leaders, some meeting, very important meeting that you had?
Well, of course, we had many good meetings with the European leaders, with Russian and China. I was very much impressed with the Chinese appreciation of the Jewish people and of Israel. So
what do they think?
They really appreciate our science, our technology, our innovation, our creativity, and they admire the Jewish people. There is no anti-Semitism in China. So there is a great potential. And when we have bilateral relations, country to country, all the countries want Israel because we have something to contribute. But when it comes to the multilateral, when they are all together in the UN, they are afraid of this Arab majority. And then they condemn Israel. But quietly, they very much seek our cooperation and our friendship.
Wonderful. And now there was yesterday started the agreement with Iran. The European Union already started the bilateral agreement. And what do you think of this?
I think it's very bad. I think that there was a lost opportunity because Iran is very weak, it's very vulnerable. The sanctions on Iraq brought about its collapse of the economy, which could have moved over to social unrest, political unrest, and this was a real danger for the Ayatollahs and the Revolutionary Guard and the Basij and all their police state institutions. So instead of putting more pressure so the Iranians will dismantle their illegal nuclear infrastructure, they gave Iran an opportunity by lifting the sanctions and not demanding Iran dismantling, only suspension. So with the suspension of the nuclear program, it is good, but it is not good enough because they still have the potential to develop it in the future whenever they like. So now I think the importance of the negotiation is that in the next 6 months, until they have a comprehensive agreement with Iran, that in the comprehensive agreement there will be a condition of dismantling the illegal nuclear and not just suspending.
Did you have any relationship, any conversation with Iranian diplomats?
No, never. They want to destroy Israel. They say this, and this is very unfortunate. I think it is important that the United States will remain in the leadership, because if the United States is not leading the world, there is a big void and a big gap. And to this gap, there are many, many negative elements that go in. The Iranians, Assad, and others. Right?
And how was your meeting with our Chancellor, the Mexican, Lourdes?
Very nice. I think Lourdes now is ambassador in London or no? I had a very good time with her. She was in Israel, and then she invited me to come here. And we started together the first strategic dialogue between the government of Israel and the government of Mexico in an institutionalized way. And now every year we have a dialogue which encompasses economy, culture, science, and this is a very good foundation for much stronger relations.